What is good, y'all? Welcome back to the Pro. Welcome back to a brand new video. We are here. We are back. And listen, man, we have a lot to get through. The Miami Heat are currently having one of those seasons. You know, this season has been an absolute roller coaster from start to finish. We're just here to kind of talk about where we stand right now. What the realistic expectation is to finish off the season, and what should we be looking forward to as we're watching these games. I mean, to me, a lot of these games, a lot of this, how all these games have went to kind of suck the excitement out of me, watching these games sometimes. Like, I'm just watching them to watch them, like usually I'd get up for some of these games and be like, you know what, I'm excited to see the Heat play, blah, blah, blah. But now it's just like, okay, the Heat are playing and I'm a fan, so I'm gonna watch, but it's like, I'm not invested really into much because it's just been a draining season from a fan perspective, just for me. I don't know how y'all feel. Let me know in the comment section, but let's get right into it. Listen, the Heat are currently on a 4-game skid. They're absolutely, mailing it in right now. I'm not really sure what's going on, but we're going to be talking about exactly what's, happening during some of these games. And, I think there's a lot of people you can point fingers at. I'm not going to go out and just start saying, oh, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. I don't think it's any one person's fault. I think it's a collective issue. And I think that's what people have to understand, because I see a lot of people playing the blame game, saying, oh, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault. I think all of that is nonsense. I think this season has been the fault of probably like 5 to 6 different people / parties. Like, a lot of stuff has gone on this season, and obviously that's no excuse for the way we're playing right now. But I will say, besides the new guys that have just come in, there have been, and I'll let the new guys off because they just came in. Wiggins has just come back from his injury. Whenever he's played, he's looked good. Davion Mitchell has looked really good. Kyle Anderson has given us good moments, he's given us bad moments, but I don't really expect Kyle Anderson to do anything for us. Apart from those three, I feel like you can probably look at every single player on this roster and say, okay, even though Tyler Herro's had an all-star campaign, he's had moments like, some of the shots he's taken over the past few games, questionable shots, or some of the decisions he's made down the stretch. You can point the finger, Bam Adebayo, even though he's playing really, really well right now. Start the season, he was not good at all. Terry Rozier has been bad throughout the whole year. The Chicago Bulls game last night was probably the one game that he actually contributed in, but even that, he only had 12 points. Like, he wasn't amazing. He was just better than he was before. He was making shots. That's the only thing different he was doing. He was making shots. He was taking good shots. But apart from last night's game, he's probably been by a far margin the Heat's worst player. Duncan Robinson has been on and off like he has been for the past 3 years in a Heat uniform. Nikola Jovic, I mean, I can't really say much bad about Nikola Jovic, but sometimes, you don't really know what you're going to get from him, but he's still growing. I mean, I'll give Nikola Jovic a slight pass. He's dealing with the injury right now, but I feel like he can be part of the future. Jaime Jaquez has regressed like massively. He's been really, really bad. He's been worse than he was last season. He's currently leading the team in negative net rating. Like, he's really, really bad this season. He's been really bad. I think the only player that you can say like has been probably played consistently well throughout the whole season, and maybe he hasn't, but I want to kind of say that he has because he's a rookie, is Kel'el Ware. I feel like Kel'el Ware has been exceeding expectations throughout the whole year whenever he's given a chance. The only flaw with his thing is that he just never plays enough because the Spo doesn't put him in enough. So whenever he plays, he makes an impact. Let's just say that. That's Kel'el Ware. I mean, to start off the season, when he got minutes, he was a little bit lost out there, but he's improved massively. He's looking really good right now. But the point is, you can probably say, like, probably besides Kel'el Ware, every single player on the Heat has had moments where they've been bad. Terry Rozier and Jaime Jaquez have been the two players who've been bad throughout the whole season. But apart from those two, everyone else has been on and off. They've dealt with something or the other, but it's been a very inconsistent up and down season. And it's been like that for the coaches as well, for the coaching staff. Spoelstra, this has probably been one of the worst seasons I've seen from Spoelstra in a while. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for Spoelstra, but if there's one person that deserves the benefit of the doubt throughout this whole organization, whether it's the players, front office, coaching, ownership, it's Spo. He is the one player, or not, sorry, I said player, he's not a player. He's the one person who is, in this organization that I will give the benefit of the doubt over anybody else, over Pat Riley, over Tyler Herro, over Bam Adebayo. Like, Eric Spoelstra, he is the one person that I'll be like, you know what, Spo, you're allowed to have one bad season. You know, if it starts becoming a pattern next year, the year after that, okay, we can start having a discussion. But I think it's too early to start having discussions about Spoelstra, about let's get rid of him. All that is way too far. We can criticize him, that's fine. And I will criticize some of the choices and decisions he's made, like leaving Terry Rozier in to close games over the past few games. I will criticize that decision. Some of the rotations have been whack. Some of the closing lineups have been whack. The offensive execution hasn't been that great with this team. Defensively, they've been holding on, but apart from that, like offensively, it's been a struggle. But listen, Spo, the reason, and it's not just because he's getting the benefit of the doubt because he's, to me, the best coach in the NBA, but also it's because he's having to deal with so much roster turnaround over the span of one season. You know, Jimmy Butler's whole situation took 6 months, and it was actually longer than 6 months probably. So he was dealing with all that. You know, he had a star player who was in and out, disgruntled. He had to deal with rotations there. He had to deal with guys being in and out of the lineup. I mean, again, I'm not trying to make any big excuses for him because I just criticize the decisions he just made. Like, they're bad decisions. But I feel like if there's any person who's allowed to go through a bad season, it's Spoelstra. And I feel like next season will be a lot better than this season. Not just because of the fact that I think he's a better coach than this, but also because he's probably not going to deal with as much drama next season as he did this season. You know, I feel like this season was just way too drama filled. It's still going on right now, by the way, but it has been way too drama filled, and I feel like that's rubbing off on. It's going to rub off on your head coach. You know, your head coach is obviously going to be affected by everything that's going on. You know, I can't say the same for one particular player because I know the whole team was probably affected by the Jimmy stuff, but nobody is more affected than the head coach who's making the actual lineup decisions and all that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he, to me, even though he's been not great this season for a lot of times, especially blown leads and all that, rotation changes. Apart from that, you know, I feel like, and he can definitely be better. He can definitely improve on that. He's the best coach in the NBA, which is why a lot of people are critical of him. But apart from that, like, I would hold off on any further criticism on Spo than just like the surface level criticism of the decisions he's made with his rotations and with his adjustments in game. Apart from that, I feel like we shouldn't really talk about Spo too much because I feel like even though he's, you know, probably cost us a few games this season, he is far from the problem with this team. Like, he nowhere near. Terry Rozier, again, and Jaime Jaquez, but more so Terry Rozier because, I mean, Jaime hasn't been as bad. He's been pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. But Terry has probably been the worst rotational piece in the NBA for out of any team this season. And when you have to deal with a guy like that who's not going to contribute anything, is going to be a negative for you whenever he's out there, it's going to be tough. The only thing I can say about that is stop playing him, but Spoelstra is not going to do that. That's the one thing about Spo that for this season I don't like, is he's being too stubborn about the Terry minutes. Apart from the Terry minutes, I feel like Spo has actually not been as bad as people think he has been this season. I feel like the main thing that I will say about Spo is the Terry minutes and blowing leads. The blowing leads issue, I get it. The Terry minutes is very fixable. If he can just cut down on some of those closing minutes, bro, I think we'll be fine. But overall, the roster is just not good. You know, I feel like we kind of have to address that. Ownership and front office should also get blamed. I mean, I'm tired of talking about Pat Riley and Mickey Arison, blaming them, but they should be blamed. But we're not here to talk about that because we're past the trade deadline. We're here to talk about the rest of the season. Whatever happens in the offseason, we'll deal with it then. To me, the Miami Heat are not trying to tank. Let me just get that straight to everyone who thinks they're going to tank or not. Like, they can't get past the 10 seed if they're trying to tank. Like, there's a very significant gap between 10 and 15 in the Eastern Conference. So the lowest they can drop to is probably 10. And I think, you know, you're looking at lowest, you're probably looking at 9, I think, or 8 is like where they'll probably finish up. I don't think, because I think even though Chicago beat us last night, there's still quite a few games behind us. Atlanta is neck and neck. I think they just snatched that 7 seed from us. And yeah, I feel like we'll probably finish around that play-in spot for sure. Now, there's an argument to be made that if we're in the play-in, then lose the game and don't compete in the playoffs. But the Heat are never going to do that. Like, that's not Not one person in the organization will support that decision. They're way too prideful and stubborn to make such a decision to tank or bottom out or lose a game to just get a higher draft pick. That's never been in their DNA. Good or bad, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't really matter, because we know the reality of the situation is that no matter what, they're going to actively try to win the game. Now, what's been happening is that even though they're trying to win some of these games, they're just too bad to win these games. You know what I'm saying? They're just not a good team. Like, I feel like we just have to call a spade a spade. They're just not a good team at all. There's a lot of guys on this roster that wouldn't get any minutes on any other playoff contender, championship contender. I'd probably say about 4 to 5 players on our roster would get minutes on a championship team, and that's probably pushing it. Apart from that, the rest of the guys that we prop up as, oh my God, we found these guys, we developed these guys, undrafted, blah, blah, blah. All that is a cool narrative and it makes it sound good. It's all heat culture, blah, blah, blah. I'm beating my chest and all that. Bro, I'm sick of it. Okay? I want talent. These guys, as much as we try to hype them up, they're not talented NBA players that would start on other championship teams. You know what I'm saying? We think a lot of these players are better than they actually are. They're not. You know? So we need to temper expectations. This team is just not good. Now, I don't excuse what happened yesterday against Chicago when you blew a 17-point lead to a 10 seed missing 4 rotational pieces. That should never happen. But the Cleveland game, we were never supposed to win that game. You know, obviously it hurts because we were very, very close to winning and we actually took the lead. And I think Spoelstra with that Terry Rozier substitution and his 4 turnovers and his 2 shots at the end where he airballed 1 and back-to-back threes that he missed, those really cost us. But Cleveland was the number 1 seed. We were missing a lot of pieces actually. We were missing Hero, Wiggins, and Ware. So Bam put on an absolute masterclass. He tried to win us this game by himself, but it just wasn't enough. And I will take that because, okay, listen, I know we should have won that game. If you look at in the game, we were up, but Cleveland is a very good team. We were severely undermanned. You know, a tough loss to Cleveland. Yes, it hurts because we could have closed the game out better, but we should have never even been in that game to start. So that game I'll excuse. The New York game, even though New York's a better team than us, we were up by 19 points. So that is one I'm not excusing because we blew a 19-point lead to New York. The Bulls are not only a team that we blew a lead against, but they're also a worse team than we are. So it's a double whammy when you look at the Chicago game because we were up 17 against a worse team. So we should have put them away easily. At least New York has some players to make a run against us. Chicago shouldn't have Josh Giddey looking like the prime Magic Johnson variant coming out against us. Like, that shouldn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, at all. So, yeah, that was very, very bad. That was probably one of the worst losses we've had this season. I think the Orlando one was super, super bad. I think this one was up there as well. The Orlando one, because we blew a very, very, I think we blew like a 23-point lead against Orlando, and we only put up 7 points in the fourth quarter. That one was terrible. That was probably the worst loss of the season. But this one was up there as well against Chicago. And what was the other game we just lost? Oh yeah, Minnesota. Minnesota, again, they're a good team. I don't think they're as good as what people might say they are. They're a play-in team right now, so I guess their record doesn't say that they're amazing either. They're very inconsistent. We took the lead. We held Anthony Edwards to 10 points at a certain point of the game, fourth quarter, which was good. But yeah, man, it's just decision-making. The offense stalled. You could have argued that Bam Adebayo got fouled, but we should have closed the game out there as well. So this team is going to always struggle to close some of these games out. Let's just keep it real. They don't really have a lot of closers on this team. Like Tyler Hero, as much of a shot maker that he can be, hasn't really been a closer this season. Bam Adebayo has never really been a guy that you just give the ball in the fourth quarter. He just puts the team on his back. Like, he's a center. He's not going to do that consistently. The one guy that we had on this team who was a closer, we obviously traded him away, which we had to. So now we don't really have any closers on this team. I mean, you're really asking for the team to work by committee, and then offensively, when you don't have an offensive-minded head coach like Spoelstra, you don't have the sets and the plays being ran offensively for this team to be ran by committee down the stretch, it's going to be tough to score points. Let's just keep it real. It's not going to be easy to score points. So Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for some of the losses, but a couple of the losses that we just suffered, like the New York one and the Chicago one, absolutely unacceptable. I mean, it was just not fun at all watching that to happen. What I do want to talk about now is like, because this team is going to probably be in the play-in position somewhere. Like from 7 through 10, they're going to be in one of those play-in teams. I feel like that's probably guaranteed now with the way that they're playing right now. So if you look at that play-in, any of those play-in matchups, I believe the teams that are in the play-in, I'm not sure if Indiana is in the play-in or if Detroit's in the play-in, but I think Indiana is in the play-in. So I think it's Indiana, Atlanta, Chicago, Miami. And yeah, I do think that Indiana and Atlanta will play. I think Miami and Chicago will play. Assuming that we beat Chicago, we would still have to play another playing game. So, do we just want to lose to Chicago? Well, that's not going to happen, obviously, because we all know that. But let's just say we make the playoffs, right? As the 8th seed, we make the playoffs. We would face Cleveland in the first round. I mean, yeah, we took them toe to toe in that game without like 4 players, but do y'all really think that Cleveland is going to be a team that we can just upset like that? I don't think so. I think Cleveland is very good. I think Cleveland has a lot of pieces that probably don't get as much attention as they deserve, but they're a very good team. Now, Boston is definitely better than Cleveland, so if you can avoid playing Boston, that's a lot better than, playing them. But I will tell you all right now, we will not beat any team in the first round. So we're really just playing for a play-in spot at this point. Like, that's really what we're trying to do, for a playoff spot. So if it was up to me, I would just sit the guys and just go full playing the two-way guys and the young guys and just try to get as much of a good pick as you can. Now, the reason that they're not going to do that and the reason that they're going to try to make the playoffs is not just because they're very prideful on making the playoffs, but it's also because if they miss the playoffs this season, their pick goes to OKC in 2026 and 2028. So it's kind of like, what pick do you want to give up? Do you want to give up the pick this season if you make the playoffs to OKC? Or do you want to give up 2 picks if you miss the playoffs, retain your pick this season, but give up 2 picks in the future, your 2026 and 2028 pick? And 2027, I believe, is also going to Charlotte. So you won't have 3 first-round picks for the next 3 seasons if that happens. So that's the only reason why I'm like, okay, fine. If that's the goal, then fine. We can try to win some of these games, but the problem is we're not winning. So it's like, what do we do? Like we're stuck at this point because it's like we're on a 4-game skid. 4-game skid, but we can't really do anything about it because we're trying to win the game or we're just not good enough to win. Now we have a pretty tough schedule coming up as well. So it's going to be tough, man. It's not going to be easy at all. I'm not really too excited for the future of this season. But hopefully, I think we just have to weather the storm and whatever happens, not really get too high or too low. I feel like we have to temper our expectations of winning a lot of these games. I feel like we just have to call the season a wash. I mean, the team is not going to do that, but we have to as fans. And just look forward to next season. Look forward to the draft. Look forward to, because we're going to have a pick regardless, whether we have 2 picks or 1 pick. Now, the Warriors pick is not looking good. It's dropping further and further down because they're winning games right now. So, but we're going to have a draft pick. It's going to be a first rounder. The good thing is that even because this is a top 10 protected pick, this is not going to be anywhere near the top 10. They look like a very good team with Jimmy added. They're 11-2 since he's been added to the team. So it's going to be somewhere between 14 and 20. Let's just put it there. Like it's probably, or it may be even lower than 20 probably. So just look forward to that draft pick, I guess. Just see how it goes. I mean, just try to find ways to be excited with this team with the younger guys like Kel'el Ware and Pelle Larsson whenever he plays. And I am excited about Andrew Wiggins. I feel like he's a very good player. I feel like he's been good in all the games that he's played so far as a Heat besides the first one. So you can find some joy in watching the new guys play as well. Davion Mitchell. Hopefully we bring him back in the offseason. So yeah, I mean, I think we're really just waiting for a lot of this stuff to get put together. I mean, losing to Chicago like that was absolutely unacceptable, but hopefully they can turn this thing around, man, because we don't have much time and, we need to do something fast, make a decision fast with the outlook of the season. So yeah, y'all let me know in the comment section. This was a bit of a longer video, but I did have to, kind of go through the whole spiel of what was going on. But y'all let me know in the comment section, man. I'll see y'all later as always. Peace.